Richie Community Redevelopment Agency Board meeting Tuesday, August 8th, 2023. Stands in pledge.
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, take roll, please.
Chairman John Eric Hoover.
Here.
Member Todd McClary.
Here.
Member Tom Kinsella. Let the record show that Member Tom Kinsella is absent from tonight's meeting. Member Linda Rodriguez.
Here.
Member Bill Colombo.
Here.
City Attorney Nancy Meyer.
Here.
Interim City Manager Sal Carey.
First order of business is to approve the board minutes from last meeting.
Motion to approve board minutes.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. To open up for comments from the general public, I have no sign-ups. By show of hands, anybody like to speak? Seeing no hands, we'll move right along. Next, comments from the city manager. I turn over to Mr. McCary for his comments.
Thank you. The city's CRA grant coordinator, Pam Lynch, and I are preparing a bid packet for services to create a new CRA plan for the city. For the state auditor's review, the plan should be updated more frequently moving forward, so we're going to go ahead and put that out on RFP. The state CRA audit draft is still scheduled for the end of August or early September. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any comments from the board? I do have one comment, and it just refers back to actually we had comments earlier, and the gentleman came in about the property potentially wanting to lease that from us. I just wanted to bring that up. You know, we have those two lots sitting there that
What lots are you talking about?
the corner of
Cody Avenue, and
Old Post. We do have those lots. We're going to obviously, I think the consensus is see what we would work those in with whatever we do down there in the development aspect. But in the meantime, would be something we can look at allowing or leasing those out for parking or whatever to try to bring something in for that.
Two issues there. One is as was brought up before, was us renting them out because there were leases on this, is that the city is not in the real estate leasing business. It's just not what we do. The other is if that restaurant wants to use that property for parking, that's going to be, that's going to have to go before the Board of Adjustment. It's off-site parking. They can't just buy it and start using it.
They already have an off-site parking.
Yeah, and it got a variance.
Right.
Yeah. It doesn't, it's not a universal variance that they can now use.
Oh, I
I'm
get
just
that.
saying.
And I'm not proposing selling it. The lease aspect of that.
I would not sell, I would not go.
I think we'd rather just sit there if we could be making some money on it, whether we're, I mean.
Again, that puts us in the real estate leasing business.
The other problem is that you theoretically, and we'll have to defer to building, you can't just park on a field and not, there's grading, there's drainage, there's all kinds of things that go to that. Who pays for that? Who pays for those improvements? How does it work from an insurance perspective? What if they damage it? Who covers the damage? There's a lot to than just saying, yeah, I'll charge you $500 and you can park some cars on it. There's going to be a lot more to it in order to satisfy our own code.
Well, the leasee would be the one, I mean, that'd be how we present it. We'll lease it to you, but this is what you need to do to.
Okay, but do we put it out to public bid? Because suppose
Yes.
Gildogs wants to lease it.
Yes, I mean.
And then how do we RFP it? And then does it go to the highest bidder? How does it work from there? We're a public agency. I mean, I think there's a lot to
I
that.
don't think that's even contemplated in the procurement process of how to lease the property. I would have to look into that.
Yeah, there's much more to this
Yeah.
than, because, oh, well, you're good friends with so-and-so, so you get to lease it. I'm not saying you are, but, it has to be absolutely open book. And then there's improvements, and who judges if the improvements are done correctly? And
And then
there's
how
just
long do
so
you lease
much
it
to
for?
this.
And then we've got a project going down there. What happens if 6 months, Ayers comes and says we can do X, Y, Z with it, and we've leased it to them, and it's just, I don't know.
And part of
Lot
it is,
questions.
once the project goes, the contractor, it's going to be a benefit to the contractor to say, yes, you can use this property for your staging and layout areas. for the work, and you can put your trailers there or whatever. So that's a benefit there that you're gonna need for the next 6 months beyond that. So we're already 6 to 8 months down the road that we're still gonna need that property.
Okay, well, just wanted to bring it up. It's, obviously if it's sitting there doing nothing, if it's something we could generate, if it's more hassle than it's worth, probably not a good idea. Next is the consent agenda. Do we have anything? No, so we'll move on to board business. Item number 2, fiscal year 2024 CRA budget discussion. I'll turn it over to Mr. Carey for introduction.
Yes, the finance director, I defer to Rachel to go ahead and present the 2023-2024 CRA budget.
Good evening. This is the City of Port Richey's proposed operating budget for the community redevelopment for fiscal year starting October 1, 2023 to September 30th, 2024. This is the fund balance for the Community Redevelopment Fund. So we have the FY22 audited fund balance. We have the FY23 estimated carry forward balance of $850,000. And then we come to the FY24 beginning fund balance of $2.9 million. The CRA funding, Port Richey CRA value increased 8% from prior year, and it drops down to 6% once we remove EBTIDE. So the TIF funding will be $653,000 with EBTIDE removed that the city will have to pay into the CRA. Using 2001 as the base year was recommended by the auditors, so that increased the amount that the city had to pay in as well. But like I said, removing EBTIDE will decrease that the property value by about $37,000. Okay. These are the CRA budgeted revenues. The ad valorem is the amount we receive from the county. So we'll receive an additional $103,000. The transfer is about $86,000 increase. And the interest is about $78,000 increase due to interest rates being more favorable. And then our fund balance, like I said, has estimated increase about $850,000. So the total fund balance for the revenues would be $4.4 million. So budget changes. We reviewed other department positions and allocated as determined. So for the record, I'll state what we changed. The operations manager, he increased from 5% to the CRA to 20%. We increased the development services specialist from 20% to 25%, the revenue manager from 20% to 25%, the building inspector from 20% to 40%, and the code enforcement officer from 20% to 30%. And again, that's all documented and signed off by employees and supervisor. We increased the amount for community grant program from $25,000 to $50,000. And then we allocated remaining funds to the Cody River Landing project. We have a phase 1 estimated cost of about $1.1 million, a phase 2 estimated cost of about $1.8, and then construction of about $259,000. And to date, we've spent about $360,000 on this project. Okay. And then this is a summary of our budgeted expenses. The big increases were administration because we increased the operations manager from the 5 to 20%. Legal. Building because we increased the demolitions from $100,000 to $150,000. And then code enforcement because of the allocation increase. Okay, next slide. And then Cody River Landing increased about $1.1 million. The community grant, like I said, we increased that $25,000. And the demolitions increased. And then we reduced contingency to allocate more to the Cody River Landing project because per CRA, we're supposed to allocate, everything to a project. And that was what I had. I can answer any questions you might have.
The additional code enforcement officer doesn't seem to be reflected in here.
Correct, because that was an additional component, so I did not include that.
Contingency
We would probably just decrease a portion of what we allocated to the Cody River Landing project, because we probably won't pay out all of that next year. So,
Community grant program, how much did we actually use?
I believe that's in your next packet for this evening, but I want to say it's about $4,000 this year. And so that would equate to 4 residents that took advantage of the program.
Thank you. And we're looking at increasing that to 50,000.
Correct, yes. But we can always change that based on your discussion on the next topic.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Anybody from the public like to speak? See your hands? We'll move on. Do you need anything? else?
Sherry's.
Oh, Sherry, welcome.
Sherry Share, 7802 Davis Street. Yes, from everything that I've read before on CRA, you have to earmark that money for a project. You can't say, oh, we're just going to carry this over to next year. Otherwise, the county can take money back. So it has to be earmarked for something. You can't save it for later. Just want to make sure that's correct, right? Thank you.
Anyone else? Moving on. Next, board business number 3, residential grant program review discussion. I'll turn it over to Ms. McCary for introduction.
Yes, as the board asked me to put this topic on, the residential grant program subsidizes improvements to the exterior of homes in the city of Portage. The program promotes residential maintenance by encouraging homeowners to maintain and improve the exterior of their homes. This grant allows city residents to receive a reimbursement of up to $1,000 with the proper supporting documentation. Looking for board direction at this time.
Discussion? You guys talked about this before I was up here. I think the raise it to 5,000.
Yeah, and even I think that's low, to be honest with you, in today's world.
Mhm.
You know, for some of the things, I mean, we all know the cost of virtually anything nowadays, windows, doors, air conditioners, you know.
Just to paint your houses,
Just to paint your
3,000
house, so,
plus.
I'd be inclined to want to increase that amount. You know, obviously, the actual flyer itself, you know, is pretty consistent.
This is a great handout.
Well, the picture doesn't change.
Well, okay, the picture's gotta change,
I mean,
but the
that's
actual
it.
detail of the
I never understood they put that picture of people's houses, people's actual houses on the front of the grant program. I thought that was pretty tasteless myself.
This is a great program that I think we need to absolutely publicize to our residents. Obviously, we've only used $4,000 last year.
Yeah, I wonder if that's just because there's just not enough there to worry about, or that's really.
Oh, well, there's 200 code enforcement things, there's lots of things to worry about out there.
I mean, people aren't taking advantage of it, I guess my
Well,
point.
it's $1,000.
Exactly.
So, I mean, like
The raises,
sometimes,
maybe more
It-
participation, yeah.
but I just want to let people know that that $1,000, you do get a tax form, it does count as income, FYI.
Yep.
So you guys were talking about 4,000 or 5,000, what's your proposal?
I go 10. But, you know, I'd have to, you know, read through the details.
I would be hesitant with 10 because I think we'll blow through the grant money very quickly.
Oh, we cap it. We've done it before.
Oh, cap it at 50 grand, so the
I
first
mean,
5.
cap it at X amount of dollars, you know, see how the applications go. We can fund it with a certain amount, but cap it, and then if we want to extend it, we can extend it.
But what happens if we do, I don't know who this goes to, so if you we do 5,000, and 6 months down the road, we go, oh, we don't, you know, we still have a lot of money, not a lot of people are utilizing the funds, can we increase it, or does it have to be at budget season? Or can you increase it? I mean, I think lowering it would be difficult, or if residents do want to use it, now it's 9 months in, we ran out of money, oops, you don't get it. Kind of.
You raised it to 50. How much leeway do we have to, I mean, how much could we put in there?
Well, I think you should incorporate some sort of fairness too, and if you're gonna give to the first people that receive this grant, you'd want to give them the same that you're going to, the
Yeah.
next people are going to get. I mean, you don't want to change it mid-year, the amount that you're going to provide to people.
Well, it depends on what they do. I mean, like, if you're gonna put a roof on your house, then 10,000 would be appropriate, but.
I see,
painting
based on
your house is-
project.
I mean, it's per project too.
Okay.
I mean, if you're gonna do gutters, I don't know how much I put gutters on in the house, but, I mean, there's lots of things in here. It's not every person's not gonna get $10,000
Right.
unless their project meets the requirements for that.
Well, here's the other concern I have. You put on a roof, you can do asphalt shingles, or you could do metal roofing. Well, you know what? Now that I'm getting 10 grand, I'm gonna go with metal roofing. That's gonna increase the value of my house. Now, the government's paying for a upcharge as opposed to a replacement. I believe this original intent was to eliminate blight, i.e. fix an ugly, bad roof to a new roof. There's a lot of subtleties to this that we have to worry about when we're starting to get to $10,000, because that is a substantial amount of money, and people can take that and put in, new windows or something to that nature. So we want to be careful with this, with that amount of money. And also, when you start to increase that to that amount of money, you increase the tendency, God bless you, for fraud.
Well, they do require a lot of information in the packet. There's some things in the packet that I would say that we need to take out for the application process. Speaking of metal roof, I mean, metal roofs are twice as much money, and you're not gonna get a metal roof for $10,000.
No, but I'll throw in 10,000 of my own money and then 10,000 of your money. Now I got a metal roof.
If you put 10,000 toward asphalt roof, or you put 20 into a metal roof, and you subsidize it with the $10,000, well, you're probably, okay, so, I mean.
And it's better hurricane protection. But
My only concern is then the next person comes along, the money's gone. Wait a minute, you just put a brand new metal roof on their house and I have nothing.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't cost the program anymore one way or the other.
Okay, so in the past, we did have it much higher than 25. Last year it was, or 2 years ago, we had it at 50,000 was what we used. And it was still 1,000, and people were still not using it. Keep in mind that this is only residential. This does not include commercial. This is
Homestead too, right?
This is only residential. Well, council had discussed this back in January, and I remember this being discussed, that you wanted to do away with the tax. So I had written some notes down from back then, but you had wanted to do away with the matching. You wanted to do away with the Social Security, where we would have to collect that, and the tax forms on that.
Right.
That was one major thing that you wanted to change. You also discussed going from residential to include commercial as well. But back in the past, we had this at $5,000. So what we noticed were people on the west side, very west side of our city, were using them for AC units. And the money was gone in like 3 months. We were out of CRA money. So if you're going to increase it, or whatever city council wants to do, I suggest that you increase it to 5,000 to start, and then do you want to include commercial? Or are we just gonna limit this to residential?
At one time, if you recall, we did have two separate programs. We had a residential and a commercial.
Correct.
So, yeah, I would go in that direction to where with commercial is for upgrading signs, fascia, things very specific to commercial buildings, specifically what faced the highway.
That's correct.
And it was a separate program, and yeah, we could certainly look into that too, because I don't see it, I don't have a problem with that. It's also restricted to single-family residential, as I believe you said, homesteaded property, so it is, locked down pretty tight. It's not snowbirds, it's not landlords. Well, again, that would be in the commercial side. If we wanted to include, we have some two-bedroom duplexes around here that are on blighted streets, and those streets could certainly use some sprucing up. I mean, just because they're rentals don't mean they're not blighted, doesn't mean people don't live there, it doesn't mean they don't match the mission of a CRA in fighting blight, in my opinion. But Yeah, we should take that as two separate projects, dig up the old commercial one if you can someplace, we can take a look at that.
I like the 5,000 to start with. We could always increase it.
Mhm.
It's hard to take money away, but it's easy to add it, I think.
I'm much more comfortable at 5,000 than 10,000.
I like 10,000, but I think we should start and work our way up.
Now, circling back on one thing Veronica did say was the tax and social security number, or tax information and social security number. We may want to be careful with that because it is income that they're getting, and if we're not recording it and they don't report it, whose fault is it now?
The application checklist in the packet consists of a completed application, 2 recent pay stubs. I don't know why the city needs to know how much I make.
Because some of it was matched and some of it was fully.
Yeah, depending on,
Yeah.
yeah.
Depending
Recent
on your
tax
income.
forms and social security or pension. And what was said to me when I was one of the 4,000 that utilized it last time for my roof. They don't even really look at that information.
Yeah, if you claim that you want.
On the application process, you put
you
your
claim
social
you make
security
above the
number.
poverty level, you don't need to prove that. Because you're getting a less benefit. So you shouldn't need to provide all that
I
proof.
mean, on the application process, I don't mind giving them my social security, but I don't think they need my pay stubs.
Only,
They don't need my, well, this is what they asked for. I had to give them 2 pay stubs. I had to give them my federal tax forms. They don't need to know all that.
if you're getting the number match, the full amount, you gotta have that to substantiate you're at the poverty level below.
But agreed, yeah, if that's.
But if you're
not-
above that, you don't need to
If
get
that's not what you're applying for, that's a simple change in the application, that's all.
Correct.
You just gotta prove you're at the poverty level below to get the.
Yeah, and then you
That's
should be
correct.
providing all of that. To
Right.
prove that,
You don't
to
need
to
to.
get, without the matching, you should provide that documentation. If you're not going for that, then,
Well, because obviously I got $1,000 on a $14,000 roof. I was way above,
yeah, exactly. So you shouldn't need to provide that.
right.
We need to stipulate that then, if
Yeah.
that's what council
I think in
wants.
the packet now,
Okay.
everybody gets it. So I think you just need to, if you're
If you're
getting, if
matching
you're getting
or
a non-matching
non-matching.
grant,
Correct.
you have to provide it. If you're getting a, I'm sorry.
If you're getting a
If
matching,
you're
If
getting
you're
a matching
getting a
grant, you
matching-
provide it. If you're doing a non-matching grant, it's not required.
correct. I think we're all on.
And we're still doing that, matching, is that what council wants, to still match it?
Well, yeah,
Or we're just
anything
doing it
over-
for everyone? Or you have to homestead?
I think, they need a, let's match. We're not gonna just give you money unless you're at the poverty level below.
Homestead is single family.
So the grant program does,
Eliminate the rentals that you,
That would be.
That's com-
oh, that would be the commercial.
That would be on the commercial side, yeah.
so I'm obviously not poverty. So I don't get the grant, so.
no, you have to match.
You just have, so you can get $1,000, $5,000, you gotta spend $5,000.
Oh, yes, okay.
Whereas if you're poverty level below, you can spend $5,000, get $5,000.
Yes, gotcha.
I mean, you don't spend
No,
anything.
yeah,
you
yeah,
get
I
$5,000,
understand,
you get
I got you
$5,000.
now, I appreciate that, thank you, thank you.
And that's why you need to obviously substantiate that you're poverty below.
Yes, sir, I got it, thank you.
Are we straight on what we need?
Yes.
Okay. He's already motioning to adjourn, so.
He said yes.
So we're keeping the tax information in, correct? If it's a matching grant, it needs the tax forms. If it's below the median income, non-matching, they get the money for the project.
They
Well, they
mean,
get the money, but they need to
They
provide.
still have to,
proof.
comply with everything
Yeah,
else.
they-
like,
Yeah.
they still have to get the 3
The
bids.
non-matching provides proof.
Okay,
The matching does not.
okay.
But as far as social security stuff you're talking about, so that's another question I had, do we report that the grant, do we report that to IRS?
Yeah,
That's
we have to
reported.
report that.
So we have to have social security regardless.
Yes,
You got 1099.
yeah,
So
okay,
we need that for both.
okay.
But we don't need we don't need the wage statements.
Proof of income, we don't
and
know.
Proof of income unless
No, you
we're
have
just
to,
granting it.
you have to kick out a 1099, but the people who were on the lower income side, that's probably not gonna be taxable income to them anyway. I mean, they're gonna get it.
That's still enough, yeah.
But they're
Right.
probably not paying taxes anyhow, because they're poor.
Right.
Are we extending this to commercial?
That's a
I think we
separate program, we're gonna check into that.
So,
Yeah, dig up
Well,
the
now,
old,
here's the question, I guess, for finance, so if we are gonna do this separate
If you're going to
commercial program, we're in budgeting season, we gotta allocate some funds for the commercial too.
we don't have
See,
to,
I'm looking out for you.
we don't have to do it tonight.
Well, we don't
They're
have to
gonna
influence
need
it.
some direction.
so like, back to the one question, so we're at 50 now, what could we go to? Or what can we do?
I understand that, but I like, I'm sorry, we're cross talking, but, you know, like I said, we need to look at the old one and see how that matches up with what we want to do, and then we can come up with a figure that you can use. It's hard to just pull a figure out of a hat and say, put this in the line item. I mean, you can if you want.
You can put 50 grand in
Trust
right
me,
now.
most of the money at CRA is not going where I want it to go, so I mean, I can put any number you want in.
I mean, we could put 50 grand for each right now, at least then it's earmarked,
All right, fine, yeah.
and then work out the details later.
Yeah, yeah, like you said, we
We
can
can
change.
reduce
we can amend that.
contingency from 200,000 to 150,000?
That gives us 100 between the two programs?
Correct.
I'm good with that.
But keep in mind that we're gonna have to create a commercial program.
Understood, yeah.
Correct,
Okay,
yeah.
so that's gonna take time.
Correct, we're just
Okay.
trying to put the money aside
Okay.
right now.
But hopefully, what we had, if you can find it, is something it's as easy to amend as what we just did with this one. It's not a major project. Hopefully.
What was the major difference in what you can use, like you said, sign?
Like I said, it was that was basically aimed at businesses.
Was it the same 1,000 to whatever?
I really don't recall now.
Up to 5,000.
Yeah.
Both of these programs in the past were up to 5,000.
Okay,
They
equivalent.
only gave us an extra amount of pool, and that's all we had. And I think it was 75,000 at one time, if I'm not mistaken. And it was gone, like, within 3 months, it was
Well,
gone.
I can tell you why that was gone, but I'll let that.
Oh, there was all,
Well, the
Yeah, it was
other
literally, I remember one time where it was gone in the first day. They were lined up out the front door.
So I think now, because we've removed a lot of CRA, a lot of areas out of CRA, that's gonna eliminate those residents
Right.
from being able to access this. Because anybody that's in the CRA is not gonna be able to access this grant.
Right.
So I think that's gonna help too.
Right. Okay.
So, just so I have direction, we're removing the pictures, if I understood correctly?
Yeah,
We're changing the
just-
pictures,
yeah, just
we're just gonna
Come
Google
up with
regular
just a
pictures.
generic cover, you don't have to
Okay.
put any pictures, and there's no need to put in pictures of rundown houses, I think
Okay.
that's the.
take my house off.
It's got a new roof.
That's right.
The other thing was,
Put pictures of little graphics of roofs and air conditioners and stuff like that.
you could only get the grant once every 2 years, is that correct, or is it every year?
Yes, once every 2.
Once every 2.
Is that something we want
That's why I'm bringing it up, because,
to, maybe yearly? Because if only four people use it.
I would say yearly,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, you
I mean,
know.
if they're gonna improve their house, maybe
I
they
mean, there's a lot
can't
of people
afford to
that
do it every
you know,
year, but
I can paint this year, I can replace my
Right.
front door next year.
Right. I would do it yearly.
Yeah, I'm okay yearly. What do you think, Tom?
I would prefer to see what kind of response we get at 5 grand, because if we soak up 5 grand's a lot of money for fixing a house. If that gets soaked up right away, the same person comes back year after year after year, we're eliminating other people. To me, the every 2 years, if no one, if next year no one, it doesn't get fulfilled, then yeah, sure, move it to every year and that's fine. I just don't want to kind of box people out if they don't know about it, theoretically. That's my only
There are
concern.
1 or 2 right now, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Could we could next year not do it at all? I mean, just because we change it to,
That's true.
we take out the every 2-year provision in what currently exists, doesn't mean we're doing anything next year.
Well, if we make it yearly and we run through it, we can change it to 2 years next year. I mean, it's going to the same
I
difference.
agree with him, but I'm indifferent, so.
I think every year.
Here's to
Right now,
indifference.
we can change it,
Yeah.
we can change it.
That way, if we don't run through it, we don't change it.
Right.
So
I agree.
we'll address it.
I agree.
Okay,
Any other questions?
Jumping at the bit.
I'm ready to go.
Is there anything that council wants to add to the eligible improvements?
Looks like air conditioners are not on that. right now. Maybe I'm missing something?
Correct. I think we were trying to focus more with the facade of the home
Yeah, it was,
versus the
Now, we
AC.
don't have landscaping or hardscaping, and maybe I'm missing that.
no.
That may be a good one too.
Yeah, again, the original program has, what you've got, what we have right here was done in conjunction with the residential maintenance standards ordinance that was passed, X number of years ago. So it was very much focused on visual blight. Yeah, I agree with you, a non-functioning air conditioner is a problem, but it's not a visual blight. So, we could certainly add it, but,
Landscaping, hardscaping? I'm just throwing these out.
landscaping, you know, you give a bunch of money to landscape and nobody waters the plants and you just feed a bunch of money away. I prefer something a little more durable.
Could we tier it? Because obviously landscape does help with blight. Maybe just do 1,000 for landscape?
It does, but you know, again, people might get in over their head and say, I'm gonna put in a bunch of landscaping.
Maybe 1,000 for landscape, up to 1,000 for landscaping.
Have some tiered options in there.
That's not bad, I guess.
Down the facade, forget to water it, come back next year and do it again.
I like that idea, I like that idea.
I like,
like
you know,
that idea.
I'm looking at durable items that, you know, if we invest the money in something, like, you know, like painting a roof, front doors, things like that, that are gonna be around for a little while, as opposed to landscape.
Another thing that was mentioned to me by city manager, I don't know if there was an ordinance to adopt this grant. And I don't know if that language has to be changed, so that's gonna have to be researched as well. Because I'm not,
Before my time, so I do not know.
I can't remember to say exactly, so I don't wanna give an answer. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't recall.
I don't either,
I
so
was not on council
we'll check into it
I was not on council at the time of the adoption of that particular plan. I was on council for
before.
previous plans. I couldn't even tell you what we did. Because I'm old and that was a long time.
I wanna say there wasn't, but before I say
I don't recall that
definitive,
being something requiring an ordinance, but,
I don't think so, but we'll research it anyway.
okay.
Just to make sure.
Anything else for that? Anybody from the public like to speak? No? Go Pat Rogers.
Pat Rogers, 4838 Sunset. I'm fortunate enough to have 4 houses in the city, 3 rentals and the one I live in. Years ago, when we had the first go-round of grants, which I would think they were in the early 2000s, I'm not sure. We talked and I asked if they could include the rental houses because, I'm not a high dollar landlord and I have tenants who make their payments on time, but they could not afford today's market, so I'm not anywhere close to market rent. But I was able to get a roof on one of my houses, one of the rentals, through the grant program, and it was a matching grant. So, I paid for half, or actually I paid for it all, and then the city gave me a check for half of it. But having to supply multiple estimates from contractors, I don't remember anything about the financial as far as asking for, what kind of income I had. But if rentals are available in the commercial side, which is what it sounds like, which is fine, just need to know that it's not cost prohibitive if there are other landlords like me out there that don't have deep pockets. But it was a great program, at that point for me. And I think matching, if people need to be able to put a little bit of their own into the job, whether it's $1,000 or $300, whatever it might be.
So that spawns a question for me. So we talk about the landlord scenario. We have multiple rentals.
Right.
I guess on the commercial side, do we look at, how do you do it in the past? Was it like LLC, or if it's an individual, they can do one, they can do all, as long as it's a separate house, they can do it.
Again, that did not include houses at that time. That particular plan was strictly roads on Ridge Road, roads on 19. That was businesses facing major thoroughfares.
Yeah. When we talk about that, we probably need to address.
Yeah, we'll talk about it, we'll think about it, yeah.
Yeah.
That would definitely take a little
Yeah.
work.
Dave? Welcome.
Dave Mueller, 5439 Blue Point Drive, and that was my concern with the proliferation of Airbnbs throughout the neighborhoods here. How would you address that? I mean, it's commercial property, essentially. It's non-homesteaded. And to the extent, a lot of those people would be 50-50. It wouldn't be a poverty match, right? With regard to supporting documents, we discussed this back in January, February, and I believe did away with the fact that you have to turn any of that documentation in. But now you've got it dialed in, so hopefully that'll be addressed. With regard to the 2-year interim, is that, you mean you can fund this cycle and then you'd have to wait the next cycle to get in, or does it have to be, the exact number of days, you know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah.
Right now, it says they will be eligible to apply for a new grant 2 years from the date of their last reimbursement check.
Okay. Okay, so then it does start the clock from that point forward, rather than the funding cycle, which is what you're really addressing. So you might want to give consideration to that. And then also the fact that you got 10 people at $5,000, you've already burned through that. Or 10 businesses at $5,000, you burn through that. So do you want to consider 2,500, and then you maybe got 20 people? I mean, it's a crapshoot right now. It's really don't know where you're going to be, but
We can address next year.
yeah.
20 people.
Thank you.
We can amend budget. We can amend budget.
I was just gonna keep track of it, and if we get close to it, then
We
give
talked
us,
about
give us a heads
we
up.
want to up it, we up it. That's all.
Well, if we get 100, like I said, 50-50, maybe do 75, 25 on the commercial side or something.
I mean,
There's probably less
you can
commercial.
adjust it at any time, like Bill said. So we can just keep it 50-50, and if one's burning through more faster than the other, we can just reallocate. Or reallocate from a separate funding area and just add more to both, or kind of track it.
Yeah. Is it pretty straightforward just to move that around?
She just hits a little button on the computer and it flies right.
Well, I guess legislatively.
Yes, council can.
All she cares about is it's the budget zeroes out at the bottom. That's all she cares. That's the law.
With that, Bill,
If that, I will torture Bill no more. I'm looking for a motion.
motion, Bill.
It is my job.
So you choose to accept.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
I want to stay on.